The Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much for being here. So how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You're in Chicago, right?
I'm actually in St. Louis, Missouri right now.
You're recording something, right? You're doing, I don't know if we could talk about it.
Well, I finished up like a recording project last week that I can't really talk about, although I can talk about part of it. I did have Adam and Mark, who play with me in the Devouring Mothers, and Adam plays with me and Against Me. They were here with me, and while we were here, we recorded like a little fun session thing for Rolling Stone that actually got posted today.
Oh, wow.
It was the first time I'd played music with any of my friends in over a year. So it was cool to capture and it was cool to do. But that happened last week, and finished up the other recording project that I was doing. Not finished up, but just wrapped it for the time being. And I'm just still here working and
yeah. Now, I mean, 2020 was just awesome, right? I remember last year, it was a good one.
Really? Because I tried to like black that year out. So it's amazing that you're holding on to it.
You know, it's funny. I only think about it when I start talking to like artists and things, because you guys, you know, you took a big hit with not being able to tour, and not only, you know, financially, but mentally, you know. You were able to do some things though during the pandemic. You did like the Vans Channel 66 DJing. Are you still doing that?
Still do that, yeah. It's a once a month. And they're so nice, and I'm so thankful for it, where I just get to go into the House of Vans and hang out in the DJ room they've built and play music for 2 hours. And I kind of like chose the theme for my show to be nothing but new music, so it's, you know, only stuff that was released post 2020 this decade. And it makes it fun to like every month spend time searching out new bands and new releases, and then picking out what I like and sharing that with people, you know.
Absolutely. What's your like go-to record right now?
Well, you know, right before I clicked onto this, I was about to send a tweet, and then I didn't. But the tweet I was going to say was listening to nothing but the Silver Jews today.
Yeah.
Today it's the Silver Jews. But I have such like a ravenous appetite for music that, you know, and the way I listen to it too is like I discover something and I listen to it to death, just grind it into the ground and then move on to the next thing. So like all last week, I fell into this Paul McCartney hole and it was like unable to listen to anything but Paul McCartney. And so I don't remember what it was the week before that, but it's just like totally random, you know, just like get hooked on something and then obsess over it, and then it's time for the next obsession.
I totally relate. You know, sometimes even Against Me, I listen to it nonstop for a month, you know, and I mean, it'll always be my favorite and I'll always go back to it, but sometimes I binge on it, you know, and yeah, I love that. Now, you live in Chicago, you know, you got the album Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers, Bought to Rot. There's a song on there called I Hate Chicago. Do you really hate Chicago, as the song implies?
Well, yes and no. I mean, like, it's kind of like the song itself is like a case study in a way of like, I don't know, your right to exist someplace if you don't feel welcome there. I've never really felt welcome in Chicago. And I was talking about this actually with a friend earlier. We were taking a walk through the park, and how like Chicago's a weird city. Like the attitudes there are, I'm just not used to being like, I came from the South, you know, and like even here in St. Louis, the park I was walking around, like, you know, there's a walking path and I walk by people and they'll be like, hello, good morning, you know, and if you say that to someone in Chicago, they look at you like you're fucking insane.
Right.
And then, you know, like people, it also like, you know, people get really up in arms when you say stuff like that. Like, I hate Chicago. And some people be like, well, fucking leave. Or like, you know, you can't say that. And it's like, why? Did you build the fucking city? Like, in this city, do I not have a right to be here because I don't like it and you feel like you have some ownership over? And if someone has that attitude, I am just like apt to double down and double down. Fuck them. You know, like I need to be somewhere even if I don't like it. And then if you really break down Chicago too, it's like, cool. So you've got this like massive city that has huge government corruption, that has like crime problems, that has like just like soul sucking traffic, you know, like takes like 45 minutes to an hour to get anywhere. That like, and in general, the city has this weird chip on its shoulder too, like where it's, you know, it's the second city, second to New York. where and that's what it calls itself. It's like if you were a child, or like if you were like a kid and you had a bunch of siblings and you introduced yourself as the second favorite child. Like you're immediately coming in there with a chip on your shoulder. And I find that it's like a lot of people who move there from smaller places in the Midwest who then get this attitude of like, now I'm in a big city. Now I'm in Chicago. Now I have to have my big city attitude. I got to have something to prove. That I just like, I don't have any time for it, and I don't have any taste,
Absolutely.
and like all and also then to talk about it too, where it's like, one of my favorite authors is Nelson Algren. Nelson Algren wrote The Man with the Golden Arm. He wrote Walk on the Wild Side. He wrote a book on Chicago. Like he was a quintessential Chicago author, right?
Mhm.
Like really strongly tied to the identity of Chicago to this day. You go, I forget the cross streets, but like right on Milwaukee, there's Dove's Diner, right? Which is a reference to a character from a Nelson Algren book. There's a Nelson Algren Park statue of him there. If you asked him about Chicago when he was still alive, he would tell you how fucking shitty it is. He would say how much he hated it. He would say the only good things are the suburbs, and like just rail on it, And so in a way, I feel like it's like a very Chicago thing to actually dislike Chicago and talk about how much you dislike it, which makes me feel then more like I belong in Chicago. But I don't know, it's like,
Yeah.
I've lived there for close to a decade. I've never been asked out on a date by anybody. I've made the friends I've made. I befriended my pot dealer. I befriended a bartender when I was still drinking. Like I, I I set this personal challenge one year. Was like, I'm going to go to every record store in Chicago and I'm going to try to make friends at the record store, because that's how I used to make friends, in record stores. And I went to every record store in Chicago, and I finally made a friend at one of the record stores. But I had to go to like, 15 some odd record stores before someone was even friendly to me. And it's weird, where you're like, I'm a professional musician and you're selling my record in this record stores, but the people here working behind the counter will not give me the time of day. Won't, like, they're looking at me like I'm a freak when I'm like, hey, how's your day going? Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's the look on my face, maybe it's just totally me, but that's been my experience with it.
Wow. That's, I live in New York. I'm on Long Island though. So, I'm in the suburbs. I'm about an hour outside of Manhattan. Well, without traffic. With traffic, I'm about 16 hours out of Manhattan. And yeah, this place, I hate this fucking place. I moved back here for my family. My wife and I, we moved to Connecticut, which is only a couple hours away. We were there for 8 years or so for her job. And it was one of those situations too, where it was like, people would say hello to you. Strangers, you'd be in the grocery store and just be like, hi, and people would say, have a nice day. That doesn't exist here. Everyone here is an asshole. And I consider myself to not be an asshole. So yeah, in a way I feel like I don't fit in here, but it's a love-hate relationship, I guess. If my family wasn't here, I would not be here. That's for damn sure.
It's unfortunate, like New York City, similar to Chicago too, where it's like, there's the lore and the mythology of New York City and of Chicago, and you think of like, oh, wouldn't it have been cool to like live in the Lower East Side back in like the day when like bands were really happening there, like the Ramones or Blondie or Talking Heads, was really happening, and that sounds rad, like. But then you look at those places now and you're like, well, they're gentrified to hell, and there's no way I could ever afford to live there, And Chicago's similar, where like you look at any of the cool neighborhoods where people live, Wicker Park, Pilsen, Logan Square, and it's like, there are cool neighborhoods. There are cool things happening there. To actually own a property there or something like that, you need like $1 million. You cannot live there. Like, you can rent, but then you're paying for like a shoebox, and you're working to pay this like exorbitant rent and to live in this place. And that's easier when you're a little younger and you're like, the bar scene is your thing, or like, like hanging out is more your thing. But especially during pandemic times, it's like, I don't want to live in a place where like I'm in a shoebox apartment and I'm a musician and I can't make noise, and it's like this extreme overhead to cover. I don't know. Anyway.
Absolutely. No, yeah.
Adult
100%. I mean, like I said, we live on the island, and it's expensive. I mean, it's not as expensive as Manhattan. I don't think anything is besides maybe LA. And yeah, we live in a shed. We live in a glorified shed. It's a nice neighborhood. It's a nice, quiet town. But yeah, I could go down south or, the Carolinas or things like that and get a mansion for what I pay for this, Now, do I need a mansion or want one? Not really. It's just me and my wife. But it's just when you just compare those things, it's just craziness. Like, what am I actually paying for? You know? Right. And everyone here has a fucking attitude, and you can't help but it. I guess it rubs off on you a little bit. Like sometimes I feel like I'm maybe a little like pushy or intimidating, but I'm just not. I'm just it's in my blood, I guess. I don't know. I grew up here, you know.
It's the environment, and those things shape, like whether you realize it or not subconsciously. Like I'm talking about like being in traffic and stuff. Like spending 2 hours a day driving in traffic to go to one place just to get there and back.
Yeah.
Makes me a bad person because I'm like after those experiences of white knuckling it for 2 hours, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's another thing too. You know, it's suburbs, but it takes me like a long time to get to the gas station off the road. There's so many, it's so congested here. There's so many people. And I don't understand why it's so expensive. I guess it's because, you know, we got New York City, you got the nice beaches, and we're kind of like smack dab in the middle of it. Other than that, I can't see it. I don't see it. You know, I drive down the road and I see these like giant pickup trucks with like their big Trump flags on it. And I'm just like, I don't fucking belong here. I don't fit in here. You know, my wife says the same thing.
Well, that's everywhere, you know, and
it is everywhere.
That's an argument I've had with people many times, and something that I used to take like real offense to living in the South, because people will like characterize the South as being extremely racist or something. And it's like, that's the whole country. That's everywhere you go. There's segregation everywhere. It just looks different in different places, you know, like Chicago is just as racist. Chicago is just as segregated and as Atlanta, you know, like it's just like looks a little different, you know, but and unfortunately the Trump part of all that is widespread too, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy that he's, you know, I'm not gonna get into politics, but it's crazy that he's not here and he's still being like, you know, spoken about and supported and whatever.
We all lived through a really you know, like no matter what, like we all went through like this really traumatic thing that we're all still coming out of and learning.
Yeah.
And it's like not only 4 years of that, but it is the pandemic too, just all coupled together. And we're only just now even kind of coming out of it, you know?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like between the vaccine and everything that's happened over the past year, we're on the good tail end, you know, like the other side, I think, or almost there, hopefully.
I hope, you know?
I hope, you know. So I don't want to ask about the top secret project again, but can we, and I'll cut this out if we can we talk about the coffee song?
Yeah, we can talk about the coffee song.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we'll talk about the cameos a little bit, because that's how this whole thing started. And you played me the song in one of the cameos. I love this fucking song. And with your permission, I'd really like to take a stab or a guess at what the project is. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm right. And if I have to cut it out, I'll cut it out.
Oh, take a stab.
Are you scoring something? Are you scoring a film or a TV show?
I am not. No, but you know what? I did do that this past during the pandemic. I like scored the first time I'd ever tried anything like that. I did contributed a couple songs to like this HBO series called Equal.
Okay.
First time I'd ever tried to do anything like that. It was a real learning experience, interesting experience, and I definitely want to do more of that. But the coffee song is called "Day Old Coffee," and I played
love it.
for a couple people on Cameo and stuff. And it's a silly, lighthearted song. It's just about drinking day old coffee, which I'll have a tendency to do sometimes because I'll make like a Bialetti full of coffee and then only drink a little bit or espresso and then end up microwaving it the next day. And it kind of tastes better in a way. But someone showed me on social media the other day that they already had a tattoo for the song. It was like, coffee, like it
wow.
said, I was like, God damn, like that's amazing. You know, like I wrote a song. It's not even released in any form.
Yes.
I played it for a couple people on Cameo and stuff like that. And somebody already has a tattoo of it. That's like a sign of a good song. I'm stoked.
It definitely is.
I'm fine to go ahead and share that the information of that. I did actually record a real version of that song. So that's in the can.
I am so excited. Now, was this song a product of the pandemic?
It was, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was kind of taking like a weird approach while writing in the pandemic of just like letting myself write about anything, even if it was just like silly, just like because trying to be productive and having that like that opportunity of when it's weird to say it's an opportunity, but I tried to look at it that way of like, all right, I'm stuck here in my apartment. I can't go anywhere, literally. Um, when is this going to happen again? You know, and my job, like on the one hand, it was like a mental obstacle to get over of like, oh my God, I can't tour, having to cancel tours. This really sucks. You know, like, what am I going to do with my life? You spiral down these like rabbit holes. But then coming to the realization of like, oh yeah, but like I'm also a songwriter and I can still do that. So I should
Sure.
just focus on that right now and maybe focus on it differently than I had in the past since we're in a different situation. So I don't know, write
Yeah.
some.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, I love this song too. You know, it's funny because I mean, you have great lyrics always, and even, and I'm not saying they're not great lyrics, but it's it's different, and it's yet it still sounds the same. It's we know it's you. We get the same vibe from it as we would from another song of yours, and I think that's what makes it magic. It's awesome.
Right on, right on. For those who are listening to this now, the lyrics to the chorus at least are day old coffee, microwave to boiling, pour it on my eyeballs and boil my dumb shit brain.
Yes, and now that I think about it, that would be a great tattoo. Just the lyrics, like right down my arm.
It sucks because sorry, it's
no, no.
Like I definitely went off the rails on caffeine during the pandemic. Like I think
Yeah.
at the height of things, I was having like 12 shots of espresso a day, and I got to this point where I was like, I this is me creating another addiction, and now I got to dial this back and get it under control. And at the moment, I am drinking coffee, but it always works that way where it's like, okay, I'm going to release this song eventually that's going to clearly establish me as a coffee drinker, and leave no doubt about that. And right as that happens, I'm going to decide I'm going to quit coffee. So
Yes.
being like, here, I brought you some coffee beans, and I'll be like, damn it.
Yeah, and I relate 100%. I have had addiction issues. I still think I do. I mean, I'm always addicted to something, whether it's something good or something bad. I try to stick with good now.
Right.
But yeah, there's always a vice. My wife said it the other day. She's like, you're now addicted to your phone. Like you're on your phone 24/7. I'm like, well, I'm working on my phone. So it's like a healthy addiction, but too much work could not be healthy as well.
I forget the name of the movie. I watched it at the beginning of the pandemic, and it's about a woman who's like, I forget what addiction she's trying to get over, but she channels herself into running, right?
Mm.
Something runs a marathon, right? Is the name of the movie.
Oh, yes. I haven't seen it, but I know what it is.
Right. And so I watched that movie and I was like, oh my God, I've done the same thing where like I quit drinking like 3 years ago, got really into running. And then when the pandemic happened, that was like my thing. It was like, I'm going to stay sane by running like an extreme amount every day. And then, by November of last year, I broke my foot, and it was clearly just from over running, and not
Wow.
properly and everything like that. And I was like, I am that movie. I turned to running my addiction.
Yeah. 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 When the pandemic first hit, I would say I wasn't looking to, relapse or anything like that, but I was looking for something. And the craziest thing, I found puzzles.
I love puzzles.
And you know what? You couldn't even find them in the stores. Like you had to buy them on eBay or Amazon, and they were like $100. And I was like, fuck it, I don't even care. We started doing puzzles. We started building Legos. It was insane. But you know what? It got me through it. Whatever works, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny because with the record I did, the pandemic record, Stay Alive, I did we made puzzles, like me and
Yes.
the merch company I work with or whatever, and I was like, they have to be 1,000-piece puzzles. None of that 500-piece shit. It has to be 1,000-piece. And like was really specific about the type of puzzle I wanted to do, and was super excited about it. And then after making them, and you have to make it's a pretty high quantity that you have to order when you're manufacturing puzzles, so it costs a lot of money. But I was like, nope, let's do it. It's people be into it, and then no one bought them. So all these puzzles for the rest of my life that I'll be trying to pawn off on people at merch.
Well, it's funny. I did see them, but I saw them post I hate fucking puzzles now. because we did so many of them. I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. She bought me one that is literally, I think it was like 1,000 pieces, and it's literally like macaroni and cheese. So it all looks just yellow and white. There's no way to like put the pieces together. I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that.
It's easy for my brain though, especially like I'll do them on like my kitchen table, right? And you know, I live alone other than my daughter when it's parent time, right?
Mhm.
So it's, you know, I don't have like big meals at my kitchen table. I can just keep stuff on it all the time. And I really like being able to walk into the room and there's a puzzle out and I can just spend 5 minutes real quick looking for a piece and oh, I got one, satisfied, move on.
Sure.
And it does something to my brain where it like satisfies that like overthinking thing to just like engage in that for a second and then I can move on. It like
Right.
an itch or something.
Right. I wish I could do that. I get obsessed and I sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours. You know, I do all the edges first and then start working on the other bit.
You got to do the edges first. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, and then we got, oh my God, what did we do? We got a virtual reality headset.
Whoa, like Oculus?
Yeah, Oculus. And that just completely changed everything. We were literally escaping the world. When you're inside that thing, you don't know where you are. You're like, you know, you're in your living room, but there's no peripheral vision anymore. You're in this world, and it was fun. It was addicting for a while, and then once again that got pushed to the side. And now we're, you know, slowly getting back into regular life. But I had a business. I cut hair. I'm a barber.
Cool.
So I had my own shop, and you know, obviously I had to close down. And then when I went back, you know, months later, it just wasn't the same. You know, I was by myself, and I was actually in a basement. It was kind of like a New York City kind of place where there was the upstairs business, and then you'd have to go down the stairs to get to me. So it was kind of hard to find, but people found me and they liked my personality, liked me, and they stuck with me, you know? And I built that slowly over a couple of years. When we went back to normal last July, well, no, not normal, but you know, they were saying you can open the businesses again, you got to do the masks thing, whatever, fine. People were still afraid to come out, you know? Now, I can't pay rent if I'm not making money.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously. So I gave it about a month, and I was like, it's just not the same. And I wound up closing it down. But what I did was I moved it to my home. Now, technically, that's not legal. But, you know, I invited people that I trusted, you know, and people that I've known for a long time to come to my home and, you know, continue here. Now I have no overhead.
Right. And
I'm still able to continue to do what I want to do. And with that extra time, this came along. I wound up meeting Christopher Mansfield from Fences, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we started talking, and he called me one day, and it was the most surreal thing in the world to me because I'm a huge fan, you know? And now we talk like every day. We're great friends. He helps me get people for the show. He basically started the show.
Yeah.
He's on it, you know, he's on a bunch of episodes, and we talk all the time, and we're just two crazy people. My point is that from this book, your book, right? Now this is the audio CD.
I was gonna say I haven't seen that version of the book. I've never held the audio CD of it. That's cool to see.
Isn't it cool? Yeah, it's let's open it up a second. Open it up, and yeah, we got the discs.
Whoa.
See, I'm a physical copy kind of guy. I don't like yeah, the digital stuff's great, it's convenient, but I like having physical copies of stuff. And I'm a terrible reader. It takes me long.
How many CDs is that? Wait a second.
Hold on. Let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a bonus.
What?
Yep. The bonus disc is just a PDF version of the book.
Okay.
But 6 discs, and I believe it was about, I want to say, so yeah, it's 7 hours. I was going to say 7 hours. So it's a 7-hour listen.
I had no idea. It was, you know, I lived it, not just the book, but recording the audio version of it. That was one of the things I was really excited to do. Like, yeah. I really wanted all the cliche trappings of releasing a book where I was like, I want to go and I want to be in a Barnes and Noble and I want to do a signing. Like, sure. I want to do it like I saw in the movies, or same with like recording the audio version. I was like, I want to smoke cigarettes and I want to, I just want it to be like me in the microphone telling my.
Yes. No, absolutely. And like I was saying before, it like I can read, but it takes me a long time to do it.
Sure.
And I really wanted to like read this book. So my wife and I were taking a little road trip. I'm like, I got the perfect fucking 7-hour escape, you know? And we listened to the whole thing. And no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, no matter like what you feel like, if you don't feel like your true self, if you're not living your true self, whether it be gender or anything, this book is amazing. And it really changes your life. And it makes you think like to just fucking do it, you know? I'm 40 years old now, and it took me, well, 40 years to like start doing something I really love to do. Like I like cutting hair, but it's not my passion, you know?
Sure. I've
always wanted to get into the entertainment industry, do something creative. I've tried music and that's no good. I like doing film, and I love just talking. I love talking to people. I love talking to people that I like. So that's how this whole thing started. And there's one point in here where, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you said you don't need the drugs to do what you want to do and to be creative. And that one line alone created this. Because I always thought that I needed to enhance myself to enhance what I want to do or what I want to put out there. And you don't. And proof of that is right now, I'm sitting here with somebody that I look up to and I'm really inspired by. And I really appreciate you doing this for me. And if you, the point is if you really want something, you can get it.
Right on.
And I was a total nightmare and a total pain in the ass, and I really apologize.
It's all good. It's all good. I don't know. Like it's tough for me to. I have trouble balancing long-term planning and living in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, we're like, it's part of like, you know, being a musician is oftentimes your whole like year, or sometimes further out than that, is so regimented of like, I know I'm going to be in Las Vegas on this date 6 months from now, that like part of that's like calming, but then some of it's like anxiety inducing, where like then in your day to day you need a certain amount of free like flexibility of just being able to like be non-committal, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
very committed to like I can schedule stuff, but then sometimes I'm like I can't make a decision, I can't make a commitment.
Right.
And it needs to be a lot more like, okay, now, you know, but you know, yeah. Anyways, we're here, we're talking, it's all good.
Yeah. And like when I first came on to the screen here, you know, I was like, when I got your email last night, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And you said you were going to be here, and you're here. And I don't think it was necessarily an insecure thing or didn't believe you were going to be here. But for me, it's like, I have like a method of madness where I prepare for these things. So like, I need to know the time and the day, and that's like an OCD thing. So I apologize for that. So I got a little off topic, but to bring it back to the barbershop, and it relates to the book as well. I had this one customer, and he came every single week for like a year. And one day, I don't even know how the topic started, he told me he was transgender. And I had absolutely no idea. And of course, it didn't change my view on him whatsoever. But I instantly became interested and started asking questions about it, you know, and I was really excited about it because he felt comfortable to tell me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because if you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't even think twice. And I developed a really like great relationship with the guy, and I learned a lot from him on you know, some of these tough topics that people are like afraid to talk about or don't understand, and people don't educate themselves and learn about these kind of things, you know. I started to get a lot more clients in the LGBT community. Like they just started, like I would say 90% of my clients now are in that community. I think that, listen, I didn't advertise myself as that, but I think they felt so comfortable with me that people started talking. I think they always felt uncomfortable going to like these barbershops where they felt that they were going to be judged.
Sure.
And I never judged anybody. And still to this day, you know, in my garage, I'm in my garage right now, right next to me is my barbershop. I have all walks of life coming through here. And I think if some people just listened to this book or asked some questions that could help them understand what a person's going through to make them make that decision in their life.
Well, I mean,
you know,
it is the cliche of like, don't judge a book by its cover. We're talking about books, and that's like a true cliche. And it, you know, it reminds me of like, I was playing this show in Texas one time, and this was shortly after I'd come out, and it was like, you know, a Texas punk show somewhere in like Houston or Dallas, not Austin, right? And playing the show, and this dude jumps up on stage, and they look like, you know, the jockiest of jocks, right? Wearing like a Texas A&M hat, and they got like a big belt buckle and shit like that. But then they fucking rip off their shirt, and I see, oh, they have top surgery scars. Oh, they're transgender. Damn, you know, like I wouldn't have picked that. I wouldn't have picked that. I get that, you know, like there's me, I'm transgender, and I'm judging a book by its cover, thinking that this is just some dude jock getting up on stage who's gonna like, you know, cause a scene or something. And like that was just such an impactful lesson for me to even learn, you know, of like, I don't know, just like, and that's something I tell people too as well, just in regards to performing or whatever, being on stage, of like, never judge an audience. You don't know who's listening. You may think they look one way, but that's not who they are. You know, like you don't know what's going inside, you know, and that's part of like putting yourself out there as a trans person and even telling your story. You may think you're talking to an audience that's nothing but cisgender people who you have nothing in common with, but maybe there's one person in that audience who's really struggling inside and actually is transgender, or who knows, but just needs to hear somebody tell their story to then feel comfortable to come out with themselves, you know? You just never know who's listening or what impact what you're going to say is going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you know, this book and your music helps a lot of people. And I just think it's a great thing, because even these few people that I have that, you know, come to me and they feel comfortable with me, I feel like even as small as a scale that is, it makes an impact. And obviously with your music and your words, you make a much bigger impact. But you're the inspiration for that. So
but that's what it's all about, you know. That's like when people talk about like, you know, like trans people like fighting for equal rights and stuff like that, you know, it's not these like far out there concepts or anything. It's like, I just want to, you know, I just want access to housing without being discriminated against because I'm transgender. I want access to healthcare without being discriminated against because I'm transgender. I want to be able to go into a barbershop or a salon and get my hair cut without being discriminated against.
Exactly.
Just like everyone else wants in their life, you know, like just to have access to the normal things that everyone else wants.
Exactly. And I think that's what I realized. And it made me upset is that like, not that I'm happy that these people came to my business, but to realize that there's, you know, you can drive down the street here and there's 30 barbershops, that it narrowed all down to mine, meaning the other ones were all judgmental. Is there anything that someone shouldn't ask a transgender person?
I don't know. Oftentimes that stuff's about context, you know, like what's the situation?
Right. True.
Other people around? Are we sitting down at a cafe and we're like talking one-on-one and you have a question that's a genuine question, like how well do we know each other, you know? Like there's certain just common sense stuff of like, you know, have some couth, you know, like if you can think, well, if somebody asked me that question, would I feel uncomfortable, you know, like then don't ask the question. I had a friend of mine recently saying like they were talking about someone who they like didn't know was transgender, and they were like, should I tell them that I didn't realize? I was like, fuck no, just like keep that shit to yourself, be pleasantly surprised or whatever to yourself. Like, you know, like a transgender person doesn't need to hear like, I didn't know you were transgender, or like I don't know, like or having questions that are like intrusive in it's all contextual, like oftentimes. And I try to be like an open book, and I definitely try to, take the attitude of like, okay, there is no stupid question. Or like, I'll try to answer any question honestly, but I don't know the answer to every question at the
Right.
same time. You can only answer what you know. But again, it is contextually, and it's about like, just treating someone like a human being. Like, what do you want to be asked? How much do you want somebody who's a stranger knowing about you? That's something personal.
Of course.
None of their business,
Right. Absolutely. So to wrap up this little section here, get this book. It's awesome. And you know what? No, don't get the book. Get the fucking audio CD. And I'll tell you why. Another reason why. And you won't even get this with the digital version. We hear you say, this disc is over. Time to change the next disc. You know what I mean? It's like the Snyder cut. You're not going to get that anywhere else. So you get the bonus cuts and the books in here too, the PDF file. So
yeah, get that, because I don't even have that. So
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm a physical media guy, and actually just wanted to bring this one up too. Obviously, Stay Alive. This record's amazing.
Thank you.
And I know that right now you have like a limited pressing, right, of a different color.
Well, there was like the initial pressing was the special edition colored pressing or whatever, and then there was actually a mess up at the plant where they didn't press the original color requested. So they were like, do you want us to, we'll destroy the vinyl and we'll just do the original color. I was like, hell no, don't destroy the vinyl. We'll just, that'll just be another special edition. So there would ended up being like 2,000 of colored variants, but then the rest are just, normal black vinyl. So.
Right. So I don't know which one I got. What do I got?
That's special edition. The mess up one is yellow. Limited pressing. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you get annoyed when people call this your acoustic album?
Here's the thing. All right. When talking about that term acoustic, I just think it's misleading. And I think that it's like rooted in almost like being condescending towards the acoustic guitar in a way that I don't fully understand, that I try to understand more, where like, no one says like, no one's talking about Bob Dylan's first album and saying that was Bob Dylan's acoustic album. It's just Bob Dylan's first album. No one's talking about Joni Mitchell and saying, oh, that's Joni Mitchell's acoustic album. It's just a Joni Mitchell album, and they're playing an acoustic guitar. And also, oftentimes, it's like completely misleading, where the majority of acoustic guitars have electronics into them. Like any episode you've ever seen of MTV Unplugged, those guitars are all plugged in. The guitar is plugged in. It has internal electronics that is going into a DI, that is going into a soundboard, and it's amplified. It's just an acoustic guitar with a pickup in it. So it's like misleading in this way. And the idea of acoustic as a genre, I feel like is like insinuating that it's like somehow worthless, like that, oh, that's just an acoustic recording of that song. No, it's just a song that just so happened to be played on an acoustic guitar. That doesn't have anything to do with the genre. So yeah, I don't know. I get weird about it in that way, because I feel like it's rooted in being condescending towards the acoustic guitar. And I feel like the acoustic guitar as an instrument has this beautiful independence that's actually pretty similar to cutting hair. And why I've always admired my friends who cut hair, where I'm like, oh, you're smart. You picked a job you can literally do anywhere. You can be traveling around the world and be like, oh shit, I'm in a tight spot and I need to make some bucks. I can cut hair. All I need is a pair of scissors and a broom to sweep up the floor, right?
Yeah.
Similar, as long as I have an acoustic guitar, I know that worst case scenario, I'm going to go stand downtown and I'm going to set out my guitar case and I'm going to busk for change, and I'll be able to hopefully eat that night. Like there's a beautiful independence in that.
Absolutely. See, it's funny because folk and punk are like my two favorite genres, and you guys mix them together, like Against Me and Stay Alive. And I mean, obviously that's why I love the band and the sound. But I think that goes hand in hand. I mean, even on some albums, there's just acoustic tracks. So to single it down to that is just,
But see, I love the term folk, like that to me. And that's where it's like more rooted. And that's where I don't understand where the division happened, where it went from being called folk to being called acoustic,
Right.
And that sometimes confuses me. And I know it's like rooted in punk in that way, where like people would do records and then do an acoustic version of that record. And
Yes.
that acoustic version of the record is supposed to be somehow less valuable or imply that there was less time invested or that it's not as real as the electric version. But to me, when it comes to songwriting too, it's like I'll really judge a song in that way, where it's like, if you got this awesome song and it's a hit on the radio, but it can only be played with like electronic stuff, if it can only be reproduced by a computer, if you have to have a full band and all these other doodads and whistles to make the song happen,
Right.
that's not that great of a song to me.
Right.
A great song to me, you should be able to boil down to just that, your voice and an acoustic guitar. And if it holds up then, that's a great song, you know?
Absolutely.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, one of my favorite Against Me songs is Two Coffins.
Thank you.
And I mean, listen, I can't judge the songs. You know what I mean? Like I can't go, this is my first, this is my second. I love all of them. Is there a song that you particularly hate of Against Me that you don't want to play? Maybe the ones that like people want to hear, but you don't want to play it?
Well, it's not a hate issue. There's like, it goes in cycles. And that's just part of having been a band for a long time. Like you'll have some songs that like, okay, we used to play this song every single night in the set list for years, for like a decade. And then you get to this point where you're like, I just don't want to play it right now. Like it needs a break. Let's retire this song for a second.
Right.
There's coming to mind right now, there's that song Rice and Bread off of As the Cowboy. We played that song every night for a decade plus. And then we got to this point where it's just like, let's just give it a break. Let's just play a different song in the set. You can only play so many songs.
Sure.
So let's switch that one out. But then there's some songs that like we've literally played every night for every show. Like a song like Walking Is Still Honest or Pints of Guinness Make You Strong. Played that every Against Me show that's ever happened. And those songs, it's amazing to feel like a song can take on different meaning for different periods of time in your life and continue to be relevant. And sometimes that's what it's about. You'll reach a point where the song where you're like, it just doesn't feel relevant to me emotionally right now. And I don't want to feel like I'm getting up on stage and faking the funk, like that I'm just like pretending that I'm feeling this. I want to really feel it when I'm on stage. So, there's periods of time where that happens. But what's far more interesting to me is like there's been instances where you'll put out a record and immediately be like, oh, I hate that song. We're never going to play that song live. It does not work. Like the White Crosses album, the song Ache With Me. When we first put out that record, it was clear to me fans did not like that song. I did not like playing it live. It never felt like it connected. I was like, well, it's just an album track. We'll never have to think of it again. It's not a good song. Then flash forward like 10 years later, I'm like, I love that song. I love playing that song. I want to play that every night.
Right.
Changed. And I don't know how to explain how that happens. Maybe it's maturity. Maybe it's like wine or something, it just takes a little bit for it to get right, like,
sure.
And that's okay,
Yeah, absolutely. So you toured 2011 with Fences.
Yes.
I have no fucking clue how I missed this because like you and him are my favorite. Don't know how I missed this one, but there was a drummer, Jay Weinberg.
Yes.
And Chris wants me to bring this up. He played for your band. He played for Fences, and he's playing for Slipknot.
Right.
I necessarily don't have a question about him, but I mean, is that like the genres, the three different genres there alone is crazy. I mean, I know he's Max Weinberg's son, and he played for E Street Band and things like that.
He was in a hardcore band as well, like a New York area hardcore band. What was it? Madball. He played for Madball before.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
fantastic drummer, like really versatile, fantastic drummer. Obviously got his dad's skills passed down to him, like hereditary
in his blood.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The hell out of his drums. Hell of a performer,
Yeah. So I showed you, you've seen him before, but I'm gonna, show everybody. This is little Chris. This is little Fences. The video's done. I made the video. We're just waiting to release it at a certain time. He's a little beat up. He's a little beat up from filming. Like his hair's all messed up.
It has like total Annabelle vibes. I would be terrified. Room is that doll or sleep in it. I'd like wake up and it's like staring at me.
Yes. Everyone I've showed has either said, "Oh my god, that's amazing," or nightmares. So yeah, his hair's a mess. His tattoos are kind of smudged because
they're not real
doing the
tattoos.
filming. Well, yes, they're not real, and he's been messed around with a lot while I was filming it. But I went all out. I went crazy. This was a Liam Neeson doll. This was Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars, whatever, the first Star Wars episodes, the bad ones.
Yeah.
And the pants, these are Liam Neeson's pants, and these are actually his boots, and they worked out. But if you pull his leg up, they go from Western to sci-fi real quick. They have like these, weird lines in them. But pulled down, just cowboy boots. It's crazy. I went all over the place just to get the shirt. Like, the shirt was really hard to find.
Dedication.
There's this thing online where you can go on Etsy or one of those sites, and people make these little shirts and they sell them for like $50 a piece because people like dress their dolls or whatever. I wasn't spending them $50. The doll was $10. I'm like, I'm not spending $50 on this shirt. So I went on eBay, and I don't even know. I found this little thing, 12-inch doll shirt. I found it for $10. The hat I got from a party favor place. Like, you can, like, if you're having a Western theme, you can like wrap it around like a card, and it fit his head fucking perfect. I glued it on. Fit his head perfectly. I went through about 6 guitars scale wise. I just kept ordering them and returning them until I found the right size. One of them was like this big. It's like, that's not gonna work. And there you go. There you have it.
It's incredible.
Hopefully the video is coming out fairly soon. It looks like an 8-year-old made it, and that's exactly what I wanted it to look like.
See, this kind of relates to what I was talking about with, like, at first the song comes out, you don't like it, and then years later you find the good in it. Similar with those Star Wars movies. The first episode 1, 2, and 3, dog shit movies, terrible fucking movies.
Yeah.
But right now, on the internet, there's that meme with Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman, where it's like, I really like the Smiths, and then Natalie Portman's like, but you hate more, right? Right?
Right.
See, there's this good that came out of it. Similarly, if those terrible movies wouldn't have been made,
yes,
have been able to get a Qui-Gon Jinn toy and make this Chris toy, and then, like, the good. You don't realize the good. You just got to put yourself out there in the universe. You got to make an effort, and who knows?
100%, I agree with that. You got to find the silver lining in everything. And I don't really hate those movies. I mean, compared to the other ones, yeah, But if I'm gonna ever sit down and watch the whole thing, I'm gonna start from the beginning, even if I'm not like totally thrilled about it. The third one's pretty good.
That's like a whole different podcast, Star Wars podcast,
Yeah, I know. We're not gonna get too far into that. You mentioned something last time we spoke about, because all right, so you're like a bucket list interview for me. So I'm literally checking this off today. Another one bucket list for me is Fat Mike. One of my, obviously, Fat Mike pretty well. And you had a story about escaping from Fat Mike's, if you wouldn't mind telling us.
This is my escape from Fat Mike's story. It was one of my favorite moments of the whole pandemic. Last summer, Mike invited me out to his house for the live stream of White Trash, Two Heaves and a Bean that they were recording. And I say quote unquote live stream because it ended up being pre-recorded. And I had to pre-record it because they're selling tickets to it. They got neighbors. They wanted to make sure it actually happened and didn't get shut by them cops.
Right.
But anyways, he invited me out, and when he talks, he's like, "Oh, to be totally chill, just the bands, like just the bands and the people filming." I'm like, "Okay, all right." A little nervous about this, but I'll go out there. And at the time, I just quit smoking weed and everything like that. So I was like balancing on an edge mentally, sobriety wise, and everything like that. But I flew out there and hanging out, and it felt like every 15, 20 minutes I heard that more people were coming, and it was like just 20 people, just like 40 people tops. There'll be 100 people here tops. The fire departments are going to come. They're going to make sure everything's cool. That we'll have an officer on site. 200 people tops, no more than that. Just like kept growing, and my anxiety's like growing and growing and growing. But I grew up listening to NoFX. I will love Fat Mike forever.
Yes.
one of my childhood heroes, and also someone who has been cooler to me in my career, a supporter of my music than most other people. You know, like nothing but love for Mike. So I have a hard time saying no to him. I have a hard time like actually being myself around him because I'm immediately a 14-year-old where I'm like, oh my god, you're Fat Mike. Like this is so cool.
Yes.
Mike.
Like how I feel right now.
I'm at his house and I'm like, I didn't feel like I could be like, hey, I feel really uncomfortable. I don't want to play. I want to leave. So the night before the live stream, I waited until everyone was asleep, and at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I booked myself a flight home, and I like called an Uber, and you know he lives in this like gated compound, so I like waited till everyone was asleep, and then I snuck through the house because he had people staying there, like sleeping on couches. They're out on the patio. Snuck past everybody with my bags. Went, like, climbed the fence, got out. Uber comes, get in the car, drive to LAX, back on the plane. Had like shut the door to the room I was sleeping in, like until so no one would realize I was gone until like late in the afternoon after I was safely home in Chicago. No one could talk me into coming back. But so yeah, I escaped from Fat Mike's house and ditched out on the not so live stream.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? He's next though. Now what I've done to you over the past few months, I'm gonna start doing to him.
Oh yeah, his cameos are a lot more expensive. I don't think he does as good a job as me, if I might say so myself. But
you know, I'm glad you said that because I meant to say that before. Guys, get a cameo from Laura because it's fucking awesome. She plays a song every time, and I gave you almost nothing to work with, and it's almost like you knew what I was saying. Like you everything you said was perfect. They're very funny. And yeah, 5 stars across the board. Get one. It's amazing. No, Mike, I'm gonna have to try a different way. I don't know how, but I don't give up, so I'll figure it out.
Right on.
Oh, so do you remember this?
Yeah, of course.
This now I have kind of a big wrist, so it doesn't really fit. It's like on the last notch kind of fits. This watch, I know you can't get this anymore, obviously. It was very, very limited, signed and everything. The reason I'm even bringing it up is because like this was one of those things where I had to have it. So I was one of those people who waited, you know, it was like 12 o'clock on, 12 o'clock Eastern time on a certain day. And I think I was at work and I was like, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to go hide in the bathroom until I log on and get this watch. And that's exactly what I did.
Right on.
12 o'clock on the dot because how many were there? Like 75? It was a very small amount.
I forget. It wasn't many. Yeah. I that company van, and it's cool that they do those. I don't know about you, but when I was like elementary school kid, it was like you said you're 40. I'm 40 as well. So same era, right? But like 1988, 89, the style was wearing multiple Swatch watches.
Yes.
Like 3 or 4
yeah. I had a couple.
The chance to make my own Swatch watch, basically, I was like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool. The design on the band on that is so amazing. You can't really see it until you look up at close. You know what I mean? Like it's got these shiny little,
like black on black printing.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but oh yeah, a little bit. It's the coolest watch ever, but it's basically just a shelf, little shelf display for me. So they say not to meet your idols, that's that saying, and I don't believe in that because I've met two of my biggest idols so far. Well, I met a lot of people, but between you and Chris, and you're just amazing people. And I mean, maybe if it was like, I don't know, some like known douchebag, kind of musician or actor or something. Like I met Chevy Chase one time and he was the biggest dick in the world.
But see, there's certain people like that. It's almost better if they're an asshole to you. Like they have the reputation of being
right.
You're like, oh my God, Chevy Chase is totally an asshole to me. That's a better story.
Yeah.
Nice and cool, and he's just got a bad rap.
Right. Absolutely. That's very true. And I'm not necessarily an idol of mine, but yeah, he's a dick.
Fletch will forever be a great movie.
Oh, absolutely. I watch Christmas Vacation every year, so dick or not. We had some, issues with communication, and you gave me a 4-minute roast to ask you what the fuck. So if you don't mind, it's going to be very tasteful and I think pretty funny. I narrowed it. I wrote a lot out and I narrowed it down to a couple of good ones. You cool with it?
I think. I don't know. I don't want to agree beforehand. Go ahead.
Okay, so all right, this is what we'll do. I'll do the roast, and if you say that was absolutely horrible, I'll take the whole thing out.
I mean, like, you're putting me on the spot here to say cool to something that I don't know if it's cool. Are you saying you want to end this interview by insulting me for 4 or 5 minutes? It's hard to get a hold of to do your podcast.
I want you,
but I'm going to roast you right the fuck back. Like
you gave me permission in the video. You said you have my permission.
Yeah, you were paying me then, so I pay.
All right, so let's make a deal then. Yeah, first of all, you can roast me back 100%. And second of all, if you don't like it, we'll cut it out. But I'm telling you, they're funny. They're not insulting whatsoever. I don't like to insult. I can't insult you. I love you. Do you check your emails at the public library?
For a long time I did, yeah. But my emails, I have totally email anxiety.
Now you say anybody you ask can, if I asked anybody, they would say the same thing. And then did not take it personally. And I did not take it personally. But I actually have a great email name for you if you'd like to change it.
Okay, what is it?
It's please allow 6 to 8 weeks at gmail.com.
All right, I'm gonna make sure that's not claimed. Let me
You see what I mean? These aren't rough, I have to share the screen for these because I did a little art for the rest of the jokes. I put time into this. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to move us over a little bit here. All right, so we got, obviously, this is one of the Against Me logos. I love this one, but I made a little change to it. What do you think about this one?
I'll take it.
Against replying to me, yes. Obviously, this is the cover of Against Me is reinventing Axl Rose. I made a slight change to it. It's Against Me is reinventing dial-up speeds. That one, it needed work. This one
uses dial-up anymore,
This one, obviously, Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy, probably my favorite album of all time. But I once again made a little change. Against Me as the Eternal Fucking Wait Time. Oh God, I'm so stupid. One of my other favorites here, Against Me searching for a form of clarity. And now we have Against Me searching for my goddamn email. And that's it. See, harmless.
See,
I'm not a joke writer.
Let me give context here further. All right, so like I'm doing another podcast later this week, right?
Yes.
I checked my email right before signing on to this because I had to find the Zoom link or whatever. And the email chain for this other podcast, I shit you not, is 40 emails long. 40 emails back and forth to arrange one podcast. I'm doing 5 podcasts this week. That's like 5 times 40 emails. Do you know how many emails that is? Do you know how much time that is? 40 fucking emails to have one conversation. Like, I can't do it. I don't have a manager anymore. I have a publicist, I have a booking agent, all that stuff. But there's no one else there's like answering emails for me with that stuff. I want to make music. I want to record songs. I want to do stuff like that. I don't want to answer emails anymore. I just want to have the like emotional motivation for emails. I love talking to people. This is fun, like sitting down and answering emails. I don't like it. That's nothing personal. I just don't like answering emails because
I agree with you 100%. Listen, Laura, I have like 5 email accounts and each one of them has like at least 400,000 unread emails in them. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, people who tell me like, did you get my email? I'm like, did you tell me that you sent me an email? Because if you don't, I don't normally just go in and check it. You know, I mean, now with this, it's all it is my OCD. I need to schedule things and have things right because that's just how I am. But those were obviously just stupid jokes. And I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time out to do this because you don't have to do this. And to just, you made my dreams come true. So I really appreciate it. And as I said, they were just stupid jokes. I would never, ever insult you. And I totally relate to you with the email thing, and I totally understand. And I'm really sorry for being so much of a pain in the ass. But there's this one thing in me, and it's that like I can't stop until I achieve it. And that's something I've never had in life. So now that I have it, we were talking about addictions before. It's like my new addiction.
Right on.
And I feel like in a way it's a pain in the ass for people, but yeah, fuck emails. Keep making the awesome music that you make. I wanted to share the screen one more time though, because you put up something the other day and I wanted to talk about it. And you're going to know what it is right away.
Well, I know what it is. I have no idea what it is. Because the thing I tweeted like, "What? Who made this?
Yes.
Why did they make this?
Bro, what is this? Who made this? What the fuck?" And with a smile, you know, with a laughing face.
I mean, it's amazing. It's clearly me as a snail, but why?
It's very cool, and that's the question that I have: is why? Like, I like the art. I like that it's of you. Well, not of you, but I don't get it. I don't understand it.
The attention to detail with the tattoos, though, A plus all around. Whoever made it, brilliant. You know,
true. And I love all kinds of art, and it's very well done. I definitely don't hate it. I just don't get it. But at the same time, you know, you don't have to get all art. But I do have a bit of a theory on this. Okay, it might sound crazy, but let's just, you know, what if? Do you believe in like parallel universes?
Sure.
Maybe this is like a parallel universe kind of thing. Like maybe there's a snail world in a parallel universe, and there's a Laura Jane slime.
I believe it.
Sings the same songs, has the same, you know, same thing going on.
And I'm just a little more shellfish. No, that didn't work.
I know what you're saying though. Yeah, it works. You know, maybe like some fan art, it like slipped through a wormhole and a portal and made its way to Earth. I don't know.
Again, I don't understand.
It's the only logic behind it that I can figure out.
I support it. I back it.
I love it. It's great. And if you're whoever's, you know, if you made this and you're watching this, great job. And just maybe email us. Don't email Laura. Email me and explain it. So listen, are you getting out on the road?
You know, I just announced those East Coast shows at the end of December, playing with
awesome.
Thursday. And there's the one show in New Jersey at Sayreville Starland Ballroom. There's a show in Worcester, Massachusetts. There's a show in Reading, Pennsylvania. And I'm spacing on where the fourth is. So those are pretty much like going to be my first getting back into it. Like you know, there's so many bands that are announcing tours right now and shows right now. And I figured it'd be like that. And I was really nervous because I didn't want to have to cancel any shows.
Of course.
So I wanted to I was like, I just want to wait, you know, like let's wait until it's sure happening. So kind of got off to a slow start, but so December will be those first shows. And then 2022 happens. We'll definitely be, you know, doing as much as we can.
I mean, are we getting a new Against Me album anytime soon?
I hope
possibly.
So. I hope so. If there's any lesson I've learned from the pandemic, it's been the value of momentum for sure, you know, and it's been hard because all of us are spread out. All of us are all over the place. So as a band, we haven't been able to get into a room together or anything like that, and trying to get everyone back on the same page. You know, that's where we're at now. We're coming out of a pandemic.
Right.
It out, you know.
Now there was a UK festival in July. Is that not happening?
The whole festival got postponed to July 2022. So
okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Are you coming to New York by any chance?
Eventually, yeah, but I don't have an exact.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be definitely on the lookout. And did you say you were with Thursday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that band. Actually, cool. Really quick. I used to go to the Warped Tour every year, and you know, then when they first came out, like their first album, I met them, and you know, they signed it or whatever, and they like invited me behind like the merch booth, like hang out with them all day. With the coolest guys on earth. So that's going to be a great show. I'm definitely going to be hoping that's coming around my parts here.
Right on.
On a scale from 1 to hell fucking yeah, how much did you enjoy being here today?
Oh, fucking yeah.
Awesome. I really appreciate that.
Right on, Mike.
Laura, that's it. Go back to doing all your amazing work and all your awesome music. And everyone get tranny and stay alive. And you can't get the watch, so fuck you. Thank you so much.
Right on. Take
All
care,
right,
Mike.
Laura. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hell fucking yeah! It's the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.